listening to the latest from NBC News Radio.
Are you ready for a new experience? To see life from another point of view? New hope, new expression, new joy. This is your radio hour. Welcome to Viewpoint with Father John.
And welcome, friends. You are tuned to NBC Radio, KCAA, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, 106.5 FM, or you can listen from anywhere around the world at kcaaradio.com. This is Viewpoint with Father John. I am your host, Father John Reed. By the way, you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Just put in Viewpoint with Father John. And if you miss a show, you can go to YouTube and in the search bar put Viewpoint with Father John, KCAA, and you'll get almost 4 years worth of shows. Goodness gracious, it's making me an old man. And you can also follow me on Twitter at Father John Reed. Father is spelled out, and Reed is the proper Irish R-E-I-D. If you misspell it, well, you must be English. So I'll get a letter on that one. All of God's children are endowed with extraordinary purpose and ability. I'm on a quest to help as many as possible in fully realizing their divinely inspired potential. Disposing a false narrative and embracing genuineness inspires clarity of purpose. My role is to get new lips so I can talk. My role is to help overcome self-imposed limitations in realizing one's spiritual potential. And folks, as always, I'd like to tell you about the best pharmacy in Southern California, which is Claremont Pharmacy, located on the corner of Indian Hill Boulevard and Arrow Highway. Dr. Nikki Ho is the proprietor there, and I'll tell you what, you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone better than she is. And if you're looking for reliable information, I want to tell you about my friend Glenn Kirshner, who has Justice Matters. He was a federal prosecutor for 30 years. He was a JAG prosecutor in the Army for 6.5 years, so he's both veteran and also a federal prosecutor. But on Justice Matters, which is his YouTube station, you can see it on your YouTube channel right now if you're looking. He gives you straight information, legal stuff about what's going on right now with all the stuff happening. And I personally vouch for him. He's a dear friend of mine. So, Justice Matters. And I want to give a special shout out to Dr. John Smith. I want to thank him for filling in for me. As many of you know, I've had some health issues going on, and it's good to be out of the ICU again, I'll tell you that much. I don't know why I say ICU. I couldn't see anybody. But admittedly, it was a close call. And I want to thank the medical staff at Montclair Hospital, used to be Doctors Hospital, because they worked round the clock, and that's why I'm here tonight. When I was taken in by ambulance, Gabby decided she didn't like the color blue on me, and so I found out I was within just a couple hours of no longer doing the show. And I want to thank Frank, our sound guy, who's been filling in and bringing in old shows when we needed to, and then getting Dr. John Smith working on this because they make a great team. So real thanks to everybody. It'd be hard for a man to feel more love than I do right now. And speaking of love, our guest this evening is a dear friend who I love very much, and we've been friends for a long, long time, although we both look too young for that to happen. And that's my dear friend Jackie Babb, who has all kinds of credentials she brings with us. She's not only a clergy,
yes,
she's a coach,
life coach,
a presenter. She does all
MFT.
MFT, yes. So she does all kinds of things. And so, Jackie, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much, John. It is such an honor to be here. You know, I love you very much. It's really always good to see you. We haven't seen each other for a while because of COVID, and
right.
So it's nice to be back. Thank you so much.
I'm glad you'd come in because I couldn't think of anyone better to talk about our subject this evening, because we're talking about the inner workings of spirituality, not just looking outside, because a lot of us will look at a church and say, okay, that's what's going to happen. No, that's where we hear information. It has to happen on the inside, as you know. And it's not just thinking about being spiritual. There are certain life decisions we must make, conscious decisions. And so let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, you know, one of my conscious decision was quite a few years ago was to learn meditation.
Right.
You know, meditation, I always had a busy mind, always going. I hear so many people talk about that. We live in a world that, unfortunately, people don't know how to just be.
Right.
They're just constantly, including me. That's how I was. I couldn't sit still. I had to have a radio going and a TV going and noise all around me. And I see that most of the people are like that. We're bombarded with all this communication outside, and so we haven't been able to go in and just find the God within us,
Right.
which is where it resides in our breath.
Yes.
And it takes practice. And it's taken me many years to get where I am right now, to where I feel very uneasy if I don't follow my routine of my meditation, going within the quiet.
You know, and I can give a little scripture on that, where Jesus said, "The Father within me is the Father within you." Mm-hmm. You must go in. You have to close the closet, where that comes from. I'm not talking about an actual room. In the temple, when you have the prayer shawl, what it means to go into your closet is you close the shawl. You know all this already.
Right.
And people know you're praying in your closet and they don't bother you. It's a really sacred thing that they do. There's great spirituality in our Jewish history. And for those who don't know it, Jesus is Jewish. So before the show, we're talking a little bit about some components. And we'll take each one by itself, but I just want to bring them up, that some of the elements of spirituality is forgiveness, compassion, love,
Empathy. Kindness.
Right.
Yes.
Right. You know, the Dalai Lama said his religion was kindness.
Yes.
Love
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful, beautiful man.
Yes, and when we realize, to me, spirituality is an awareness that we're all connected. And when I hurt you, I hurt me.
Yes.
And what happens is that God within slowly starts to diminish. And so we have to learn those things. And it is learned, it is a
Yes.
practice, just like everything else. It's an action. I have a book. It's all the great leaders, like Mother Teresa and Buddha and Jesus. And on the preface, it said, God is a verb.
Yes.
It's an action word. And so in order to find that, I have to do action.
Well, religio, for religion, it's an action.
Right.
It's not a thing that you sit in the church for.
Right.
So, yeah, we're both saying the same thing on that. So let's take these different components. Now, they do all connect because you need each of them to pull off any of them, as far from where I come from.
Right.
I mean, if you have a different point of view, I'd certainly love to hear it. But in order to have forgiveness, you have to have compassion.
Mm-hmm.
To show compassion, you have to have kindness.
Mm-hmm.
To show kindness, you have to have empathy. And to have empathy, you must begin with love.
Right.
Is how I think of it when you
Absolutely.
put it. So take any one of them, let's talk.
Well, one of my favorite topics is, first of all, is forgiveness.
Right.
Because when I have the willingness to forgive, my whole consciousness begins to change. And, I have to, again, go within, but I have to find a place within myself for forgiveness of myself. And, but when I ask my God to give me the willingness to forgive, something happens. There's an actual physiological reaction. There's a mental reaction, and there's a spiritual reaction from just taking the step of asking God for the willingness to forgive. And what happens is, once I learn to forgive, then I am forgiven.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're going right into what I was going to say is, some people say you can't forgive others, so you forgive yourself, and that's just as backwards as everything else. It's by my forgiving other
Right.
people
Exactly.
that I come to be able to forgive myself. And so thank you. You put that eloquently.
Thank you. And and the kindness component of it. One of my very favorite authors, and just an incredible woman who just passed away not too long ago, Maya Angelou.
Oh, yes.
And one of my favorite quotes is you may forget what people do, and you may forget what people say, but you will never forget how they made you feel.
Amen.
And that's a thing that I've always searched for. How do I treat people? How do I when I start treating people with kindness, then the empathy comes. When I can look at a person, I love it I heard it weirdly enough on Facebook. If I could see people, if I could look in their eyes and see their soul, I would treat them differently. And, it's so true, because we look at a person on the outside and we're judging them by whatever they may be wearing, wherever they live, but if we could see what was happening with inside them, the brokenness sometimes, the fighting, the battles, and we could judge people totally different. They would be totally different.
I heard somebody say within the last couple of years, particularly dealing with veterans with PTSD, they say you shouldn't. It's not enough to ask people where they come from. We need to ask them what they've been through.
Right. Yeah. And, sharing that on a level is a great gift for both of us. If I can share what has happened to me in my life, and I can share with another human being, there's been times where I've met people that I thought, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can handle this person.
Right.
And then I start talking to them, and, where are you from? How was your childhood? All these things. Then all of a sudden, that spirituality comes. We become connected. When I can connect with another human being on a level of brokenness,
Right.
of a level of the battles that we fight, then there's a whole different view of that person, an entirely different view of that person.
Yes, and that's, in my way of thinking, is where the compassion comes in. And empathy, which is much different than sympathy. I mean, sympathy is okay as far as it goes. I mean, I think
Right.
there's a need for so much of that.
Right.
But empathy means I'm willing to feel this along with, experience it with you.
Yes.
And
Walking in their shoes, being able to really feel the shoes they are walking in is empathy. Different than compassion.
yeah.
Yeah.
And when you're doing empathy, I think it takes away the desire to fill them with platitudes.
Right.
And sound so smart. And the one that gets me, and it really gets me, is you just have to have more faith.
Right.
So now this person's already in a bad place, and now you're going to inflict more guilt on them because if they had more faith, my experience is it just doesn't work that way. The first tenet of Buddhism is life is difficult.
Yes. Yeah.
And if you can start there and not have to give platitudes, a magical thing happens. People feel heard.
Right. Right. Well, I think it was Buddha that said, life is joy and it's also pain.
Yep.
And when we can come to a level of acceptance, then, we can live a happier life. We're not fighting it. That pain is in the resistance. And so when we're not fighting everything, when we're in acceptance, our life seems to be a lot easier. That pain in our head of fighting everything and everyone is difficult. And it makes, what is it? Pain is necessary. Suffering is optional.
Right,
so,
right.
But we tend to suffer, because we're not in acceptance, and so that's another thing of going within and learning acceptance.
Well, they say that pain is a touchstone to growth, but we of the Irish heritage, we take that touchstone and we just hug that thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and to be able to sit there and really see what a person has gone through in life, and empathy is a great thing. Sometimes I used to think that I felt too much, that my heart would hurt when somebody was hurt,
Right.
but then I felt great joy. Sometimes, I say I'm silly sometimes, but it's just who I am. Sometimes I filled with so much joy that my heart feels like it's going to burst. And so you weigh that out, that I cry for your pain and I rejoice in your joy. And then we become one.
Which, by the way, I understand you're a card-carrying joyologist.
I am. I am. Yes, I am. In fact, somebody told me that. I think it was a character on Saturday Night Live many, many years ago, and they would ask her a question, and she would just fold up her hands and go, "I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it." And what I have found is that I had somebody come to me one time and say, "Would you teach me how to have fun?" Would you teach me how to laugh? And I thought, how sad, but you really can, just like anything else. You can teach someone how to feel that joy.
That's funny. A friend of mine had gone to a therapist, and he asked, am I normal? And the therapist said, Tom, normal is 98.6. The question is, are you healthy? And so he asked, well, am I healthy? He says, well, a healthy person can do three things. A healthy person can work, a healthy person can play, a healthy person can love. If you can do all three things, you're healthy. Now, right. I don't know about you. I'm really good with work. I'm really good with love. I really struggle with play. To this day, I struggle with play.
Yes. Yes. Well, I think it's part of our society that's trained us that way. Especially here in America, right. It's got to go to work, got to get money, got to get a job, and it's that label that we've been tagged with, that we began to believe that, oh yeah, I'm nothing if I don't do my job, if I don't have money, if I don't, and they forget to go within. They forget to have joy. And so you literally have to teach a person, just like a meditation, to be able to sit down with them and teach them meditation. Same thing is with joy, how to laugh. And they actually have classes on teaching you how to laugh and have fun.
Yes, yeah. They do. Well, speaking about, doing things on your job, Frank's looking at me through the glass like if I still want a job, it will bring him great joy for us to go to commercial break.
Open for takeout and delivery, El Tapiac Mexican food restaurant in the Tri-City Center of Redlands is back. Their entire family is on hand to serve up their delicious burritos, machaca, chorizo, huevos rancheros, steak and eggs, just part of their mouth-watering great food. Since 1531, people have marveled at the miracle of El Tapiac, and now you can marvel at the great food the Lugo family has been serving up for over 2 decades, nestled quietly in the corner of the Tri-City Center shopping mall next to Burlington Coat Factory. Support them. They can't wait to serve you some of their delectable, authentic, south-of-the-border Mexican fare at great prices, served up with love. Support the area's best-loved Mexican food restaurant in these tough times. Order up a tasty meal on the phone for delivery or takeout for breakfast, lunch, or dinner from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Call 909-307-0017. That's 909-307-0017, or Google El Tapiac Redlands and treat yourself.
The loss of a loved one is one of the most challenging experiences in a person's life. It's hard to know where to turn to make your loved one's final arrangements. Jesse Ruiz at Personal Funeral Planning in Ontario will treat you and your loved one with the respect you deserve. Jesse served in the Marine Corps in Desert Storm and understands what it takes to provide loyal, personalized, and empathetic service to those who need it most. The families of Michael Jackson, Brittany Murphy, Ed McMahon, and many others have trusted Jesse to provide them with the highest level of service and support. To work with Jesse, call 909-762-4027, 909-762-4027, or visit their website, www.4pfp.org. www.4pfp as in personalfuneralplanning.org. Jesse Ruiz and Personal Funeral Planning, veteran-owned and operated, helping you plan a personal, lasting tribute for your loved one. www.4pfp.org.
And welcome back. You're tuned to NBC Radio, KCAA, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, 106.5 FM, or you can listen from anywhere around the world at kcaaradio.com. This is Viewpoint with Father John, and I am your host, Father John Reed. And a shout out to some of the listeners that do listen from around the world. I do get your letters, and I thank you for that. It amazes me every time I get an email from someone in Brazil, Philippines, Panama, and I think, wow, they must not have much to do. But I really do appreciate things, and the well wishes that I've been receiving through private messages. Thank you. Everyone's prayers mean a whole lot. Again, my guest this evening is the one and only Jackie Babb, and Jackie and I go back a long ways, and I have a great love for her spiritual centering. And so we're talking right now about these very principles. And, when we went to commercial break, we had left with the idea of play. And I'm glad you're teaching people how to do that, because when you're very serious and you come from a background where if you're not very serious, you're doing something wrong, that's a hard thing to learn. And you have a great ability to play that's fun to watch. And, so I get inspired when I watch it. So why don't you talk just a little bit more about that, and we'll move on to the other parts of these topics.
Well, as far as laughing and playing, we can start out very small. They asking them what they like to do. Are there any games they play? Are there any times that make them laugh? Are there any shows that make them laugh? What is it that brings them joy? And, you start from a level of that, again, once inside, because I think all people know how to play. We are all children inside.
Yes.
And like you said, it's because of brokenness or what tragedies have happened in their life that they forgot, just like they forgot the God within them.
Right.
They forgot who they were, and when we start to awaken in so many ways through prayer, through meditation, and become to awaken that we are children of God, that I think it becomes a natural instinct to want to learn how to play, want to learn how to laugh, and it's just like anything else. You start at a small thing, then you just build it up, and everybody has it within them, and of course, unless they're psychologically sick. But there are people who really do not know, cannot laugh, which is very sad. But they're mentally sick, But I think everybody knows how to laugh. They just have to learn.
Somebody just sent me a message today that said, "The God in me sees the God in you," and Namaste is really what the
Right.
Religions. But it touched me really deeply, because I've known this person for a lot of years, and they weren't just typing something in. I could feel what they meant. It was quite sincere. My grandmother always said, "Be sincere, always be sincere, even if you don't mean it."
Well, that brings us to the kindness portion of it, kindness. That, my late husband and I, if we would have little spats, as all married people do, we came to a realization that we would have to stop and say to ourselves, what is the most loving thing to say and do? And that could be in any situation to another human being that's approaching you, that's angry. At that moment, my reaction is to react instead of respond, instead of breathe. What's the most loving thing to say and do at this moment? And sometimes it's say nothing and walk away if you can.
Yes.
But, kindness is such a gift that if you continue, I heard an interview when I was living in Tucson. Mother Teresa actually was talking to a radio announcer or disc jockey, and he said, "I want to do something. I want to build a building. I want to build something for the poor." And she said, all you have to do is one act of kindness every single day, and that will change you forever. That's all you have to do. You don't have to be grandiose. Just be kind to anybody who is in front of you. And I'm to the belief, I keep mentioning it, it changes us physiologically.
Yes, it does.
Mentally, spiritually. If we make every one of these a practice, we begin to change.
One of the things that Mother Teresa says that just wraps around my heart is, do small things with great love.
Yes.
And I think that hits so deeply. That's compassion in motion, as
Right.
far as I'm concerned.
Right. Well, love is even taught. Unfortunately, a lot of us didn't get that when we were small. And so we have to find our way, and hopefully, we all get to do that. Either there's somebody in our life, a mentor, a teacher, a therapist, somebody that can teach us. And it's all these small little things, really. Loving someone else is truly how we learn to love ourselves, as you said.
Well, your late husband, Don, taught me a great deal about that. I never felt safer with anyone. Two people I felt the most safe with was Don and Chuck Chamberlain, an old friend.
Right.
And in both places, I felt non-judged, fully present,
Yes.
and fully loved.
Yes.
So I'll always appreciate that.
Well, he taught me so much. He really did. He talked about if somebody would approach him and be angry, and he would say to himself, God, help me see what you see. And I always thought, that's really, he used to meditate for an hour, and I always used to tease him and say, I'm going to come out one of these mornings, you're going to be levitating. I just know that. But he really had come to a place in his life where going within was really the ultimate of what he needed to do to live in this world and be kind and to have empathy and all those things, is that quiet time. And he really was. And believe me, we fight, and, we were regular married people. But he was very, very wise when it comes to spirituality and going within and how do we do it. And he practiced it. He just didn't talk about it. He practiced it.
Thomas Keating, who taught centering prayer, was doing a retreat. And he's going over this, and they did a 20-minute sit, as they say in the East, a 20-minute meditation. And one of his methods is he gives you a sacred word, whatever that sacred word is you want. It could be love, it could be Jesus, Buddha, don't matter. And there's a nun there that at the break comes up and says, I can't do this. I had to bring myself back to the centering, to the word at least 1,000 times. And he said, how wonderful. Yeah. You had 1,000 opportunities to learn to meditate.
Right.
And that's powerful, because I think we put such expectations on ourselves, because we see people, I didn't get up to an hour meditation for 25, 30 years. Mm-hmm. It was one of those things that you start with a minute. Yeah. If you can do that long, well, 30 seconds if you can't. And you allow it to take you in. And of course, the monkey mind, where the monkey is swinging from thought to thought, after a while it says, well, if you're not going to pay attention to me, then I'm not going to talk.
Right. I went to a retreat about 3 years ago down in Temecula. I feel so ashamed that I don't remember it, but it was a Buddhist retreat.
Good.
And the entire thing was on mindfulness. And when they did a walking meditation, where you literally walked an inch at a time.
Right.
And nobody talked, and you become aware of everything around you. It was very difficult, even though I know how to meditate, but to walk an inch at a time, my legs were shaking. But I'll tell you what happened is that when I got done with that, it was half a day, actually, and it was wonderful. You get this awareness of the world around you. So I go over to Bonelli Park. I was going every day and doing my walk. And all of a sudden I had realized that as I was walking, I heard every bird chirp. I heard everything, and it was so glorifying to me that I noticed the mountains, the sky, the trees, the wildlife. It was exhilarating, and all I could say to myself was, "Thank you, God." That's what happens when we have that mindfulness, that awareness of be right here, right now. I have a mug that says, "Living in the moment just might be the secret of life."
Well, yeah. Well, that's why we have the labyrinth in
Right.
our tradition.
Right.
And I do a number of retreats for Sarah out in Malibu, and they have a labyrinth. And I always encourage the people on retreat to try it, and I give them the same thing. Only walk a few inches at a time. Mm-hmm. This is not a foot race, so to speak.
Right.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
If it doesn't take me at least 1 hour to do that labyrinth, mm-hmm. then I cheated myself because I went too fast. I was looking just for results and not process. And you can't get good result without good process.
Right, right. And the more aware you are of your surroundings, mm-hmm. The more, for me, the more joy I get. Because I notice things. And even when people walk up to me, I notice haircuts. I notice new outfits. And I've been taught that, and there's nothing, I believe, nothing more joyous than having a person walk up to you that you had just met a while back, knowing their name, remembering what they said to you, thanking them. Acts of kindness, acts of awareness is a form of meditation and a form of getting that God within to come out.
Yes. And my experience has been that is always an expression of how can I make your life a little better instead of worrying about what's in it for me.
Right. Yeah, it's, they're like you said at the beginning, it's all components of each other, that love. And, I think for me, the awareness that we are all connected, like I said, is my form of spirituality that has brought me to a level that I can't even express the love that I have found to really see, wait, we are all connected. We all hurt. We all are broken. We're all fighting a battle. I just don't want to add to yours, because we're all fighting one. So, it's a magical practice.
I'd like to get your insights on another part. And this is going to seem like a really hard turn. I'm doing a Tokyo drift on this. Because I think it's a very important part of the process, is why I'm bringing this up. A lot of people I work with have had some really painful religious beliefs. They have an arrangement instead of a relationship with God. I've been there, I understand that. And so one of the things I've done with them is I say, you need to write an anger letter to God. I can't do that. Well, then you won't grow. I said, you can't love what you fear. And if you can't be honest with your understanding of God, how can you ever feel close to this God?
Right.
And I say, just trust me on this. And I say, be creative. Don't be polite. Say what's in there and let it come out. Because if you don't let it come out, it will always be there and in the way.
Right.
Interested in your thoughts.
Well, I had a period of time when I did that. I remember yelling out. It was a period of time where I had a lot of difficult times.
Yeah.
And I remember screaming out in the middle of my room, I don't even believe in you. And then I go, well, if I don't believe in you, who am I talking to? But, I think when we have our own conception of God and it's based in love and not fear, then it's endless possibilities. As you know, I call mine life energy beyond my understanding.
Yeah.
And the reason I call that is because my God is all things. It's beyond my understanding. If I could understand it, then it wouldn't be God. But I see an energy in so many places I go that have been touched by something, and that's what I call my life energy beyond my understanding, that there's something there and I get great joy out of it. But yeah, you have to talk to God. I've done it, I've turned my head and come back and turned my head and come back. And over the years, my conception of my life energy beyond my understanding has changed, and I am at total peace with it. I was told one day, when I said, well, I don't believe in God. And they said, well, that's okay. He believes in you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The whole idea of the teachings of Jesus, and I know you know this, Jesus didn't come to change God's mind about us. Jesus came to change our mind about God and to introduce us to this loving presence. And I think it's kind of a sad commentary that people get caught up in the name you use. And it really doesn't, Jesus wasn't even his name, it was Yeshua. We get the word Jesus from the German language. But you said it very well. If you can define it, you don't understand it. They say in the East, he who knows doesn't say, he who says doesn't know. And and that may sound confusing to people. You have to experience it. And one of the greatest prayers I ever learned was given to me on a retreat. And I use this still with people struggling. I was really struggling, and the priest said to me, I want you to try this for 1 month. Here's your prayer. God, reveal yourself to me in my life in a way that I will understand. And then pay attention. And I did this for a whole month. And the experience was much different than what I thought it was, because it took me through the fear of how dare I ask, and to the presence of love that had been there the whole time that I was too busy to see or too afraid to look at because it went against what I had learned in a church. I'm not putting church down. Church has its place. But in America, we have some very unhealthy religion. And, you're not going to not have a cold because you say, I don't have a cold. The church has a serious cold. It has the flu right now. And a lot of illness is coming out of it. And I'm not saying, I'm saying this from working from within the church. And when I say that, I mean universally, all Christianity, good part of Christianity. But there's another part that's happening. You have people like Richard Rohr, Rob Bell, and other people like this, John Philip Newell, who are bringing back healthy understanding of God and it's changing a lot of lives. But any religion that teaches you to hate is junk religion.
Right.
And any religion that says it's only us and not you is junk religion.
Mm-hmm.
Healthy religion says we're all connected, like you said earlier. But people think they're betraying someone or something if they dare look at that. And really, it's God calling you to a liberation.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Right. Right. Well, I do believe God is between you and I, and the space between us.
Yes.
And but sometimes because I am a very, I have to analytical. I have to prove something's there.
Right.
But I believe God is always there, and it comes through people. And that's how we find our God, through people. And there's a story that my late husband always used to tell about the little boy in bed, and his mother's tucking him in, and she goes, "Okay, good night," and she kisses him and go outside and puts the door ajar a little bit. And 5 minutes later, he goes, Mommy, come quick. And she comes in. She goes, "What's wrong?" She goes, I'm cold. Well, let me bring you another blanket. Brings it, kisses him on the head, goes out. Mommy. She comes running. What? She goes, "I'm thirsty." She brings him a glass of water. And she goes out again. He goes, Mommy. He goes back in, "You forgot my toy." She gets the toy. She goes, "Honey, you can't do this all night." And he goes, "But Mommy, I'm afraid." And she says, "Well, but God's here with you." And he goes, "Yeah, but sometimes I need God with skin."
Ooh, I love that.
Isn't that a wonderful story? And that's true. And I think sometimes when we think God is so far away, we only have to look around us, and we get our answers through people. When I start hearing God's voice in my head, constantly answering my questions all the time, I need to check in somewhere. But I do believe, we get it through people. We put it out to the universe, and it comes through our people. So, God is in the space between all of us.
Well, speaking of checking in, Frank is looking at me like you better check into
He's
a
getting
commercial.
mad again.
So you're listening to Viewpoint with Father John, and our guest this evening is Jackie Babb. We'll be back in 90 seconds.
Open for takeout and delivery, El Tapiac Mexican food restaurant in the Tri-City Center of Redlands is back. Their entire family is on hand to serve up their delicious burritos, machaca, chorizo, huevos rancheros, steak and eggs, just part of their mouth-watering great food. Since 1531, people have marveled at the miracle of El Tapiac, and now you can marvel at the great food the Lugo family has been serving up for over 2 decades, nestled quietly in the corner of the Tri-City Center shopping mall next to Burlington Coat Factory. Support them. They can't wait to serve you some of their delectable, authentic, south-of-the-border Mexican fare at great prices, served up with love. Support the area's best-loved Mexican food restaurant in these tough times. Order up a tasty meal on the phone for delivery or takeout for breakfast, lunch, or dinner from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Call 909-307-0017. That's 909-307-0017, or Google El Tapiac Redlands and treat yourself.
The loss of a loved one is one of the most challenging experiences in a person's life. It's hard to know where to turn to make your loved one's final arrangements. Jesse Ruiz at Personal Funeral Planning in Ontario will treat you and your loved one with the respect you deserve. Jesse served in the Marine Corps in Desert Storm and understands what it takes to provide loyal, personalized, and empathetic service to those who need it most. The families of Michael Jackson, Brittany Murphy, Ed McMahon, and many others have trusted Jesse to provide them with the highest level of service and support. To work with Jesse, call 909-762-4027, 909-762-4027, or visit their website, www.4pfp.org. www.4pfp as in personalfuneralplanning.org. Jesse Ruiz and Personal Funeral Planning, veteran-owned and operated, helping you plan a personal, lasting tribute for your loved one. www.4pfp.org.
And welcome back. You're tuned to NBC Radio, KCAA, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, 106.5 FM, or you can tune in from anywhere around the world and even San Bernardino County at kcaaradio.com. This is Viewpoint with Father John. I'm your host, Father John Reed. My guest this evening is the one and only Jackie Babb, a dear friend of many years and also a deeply spiritual person. When I say that, I don't necessarily mean religious, although she is religiously trained. I mean someone who has a great connection within, who's learned that as a friend of mine used to say, that what you're looking for, you're looking with. And that's a huge thing to have to learn, because I mentioned in my book, Close Your Eyes So You Can See Me, that being religious is us trying to show God how good we are. Being spiritual is letting God show us how good he is and enjoying the love. And I think it's important to get back to those basics. And that's kind of what encompasses what we're talking about tonight, because the life of compassion encompasses all the things we've been talking about tonight. And if you don't have compassion, well, you just have a sales pitch. And I don't think we need more sales pitches. I think we need a real life experience.
Right.
So.
Right. You know, I was thinking of, God gave us dominion over the animals because he gave us a brain to think and a heart to feel and a soul to connect. And yet, for some odd reason, those are the things we don't want to do. We don't want to think, we don't want to feel, and we don't want to connect, because we have this misperception: if I do those three things, I will be hurt.
Right.
And again, from lessons from maybe childhood or whatever have made us that way. And yet, the reality is once we see that, I heard something the other day. I can't remember where it was. I just love it because a lot of people don't. I hear people go, "Oh, I don't want to cry. I don't want to cry," and I always go, "Cry." And then I don't know where I heard this, but it said, "The sacredness of tears is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of." But the messengers of overwhelming grief and incredible love.
Right.
And so when we lose the fear of crying, or we lose the fear of being hurt by something, then we shut ourselves off from everything that we were put here for, and that's to connect with each other.
That's one of the things I love about the Dalai Lama, is his presence with people, is he lets the tears fall with them. He lets the laughter come out with them. And they're not distinct from one another. Mm-hmm. They're all part of the same love, same spirit.
Right.
And so, by the way, I got to, goodness, I don't want to say how many decades ago this was, but I was down at the Nora Foundation when it was in Irvine, and it was the Dalai Lama had come over to visit, and a group of his monks were doing a private sitting with us where they were doing the chants, and they did one chant that hadn't ever been done in America, because it hadn't been chanted in 1,000 years, and I got to be there for it. But what really touched me was how present they were, and how they could laugh and cry and be in between and do all these things. And I thought, I've never seen such deep spirituality in my life. I was moved by it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have to realize that we're human, and we don't want to face that. We strive for perfection. We strive for strength. We strive for you not knowing I'm hurt. And
Right.
I'm saying that about myself because I lived many years with just some fears I had. I would go to my grave rather than you would think I was stupid or weak. And because of that, out came a wall of me trying to prove so much. So I became competitive and argumentative and had to have the last word and exaggerated and all these things that blocked me from ever having true relationships. And I even mean with my children,
Sure.
And so through the process of healing, through the process of awakening, through the process of seeing my frailties, my defense mechanisms, all those things that I was able to face, then what happened is it broke me open. It broke me open, and clarity came, and I realized, I cry all the time. Don used to say, "You cry at Ford commercials." Well, that is pretty sad, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's really something, because I cry a lot and I laugh a lot.
Right.
And it truly is a healing of our soul.
Well, one of the things Richard Rohr says is we're supposed to be human beings, not human doers.
Right.
And yet we're not taught that. I think it would help society if in our primary education we also tell our kids how to live with themselves
Right.
and how to know that they're okay and that there's nothing to prove, that you're good enough right where you are. Now, this isn't the thing where people get mad you give them trophies to everyone. This has nothing to do with that. This has to do with children. I can't even keep the tears down when I say it. With kids knowing they have value.
Yes.
And it's okay to feel. I don't think you can any deeper than that.
And it's okay to have losses and
Yes.
have mistakes made. I mean, I used to, when I was younger, I played golf, and I would literally cry when I didn't play well, because what I was connecting was, if I don't play golf well, then I'm no good. It's so bizarre how we think that if we don't win a game or we don't do it. I had someone say, well, if I don't do it perfect, I don't do it. Well, if I thought that way, I'd be stuck in my house all day, because we can't be perfect. And so that realization that we are human and we are going to make mistakes and we are going to fail is part of that growing thing as a gift to someone else.
Yes. Yes, and it's a gracious gift that we all need. Always going around having something to prove that's a heavy bag of rocks to carry on your back at all times.
Right.
The other thing is the idea of working so hard at being the individual. In my way of seeing things, this is just my point of view. The way this life is set up is it's supposed to be a team thing. And it doesn't matter if that team is man, woman, 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 man, man. It doesn't matter. The idea is we need the amarkara, the soul friend, as they say in Gaelic. And when we discover that, we have someone who's not just a mentor. We have someone who's walking side by side with us.
Right.
And when they're walking side to side, you can lock arms and feel the touch of divinity, because we realize we're both on the same level.
Right. I had someone come to me one time and say, "Oh, I wish I was you." I go, "Well, I'm taken. So why don't you be you?" And you watch TV. Well, my friend and I were talking about that on the ride over here, about the shows that are on TV. Everybody wants to look the same.
Right.
They want their face to look the same. They want their lips to look the same. They want their behinds to look the same. It's like, I want to be that. I want to be that. We don't know how to be ourselves. We are such a gift. We're unique in every single way, and a gift to life. If we could see that no, you don't want to be me, be yourself.
Right.
That's a God-given thing. Do it.
And don't be afraid to grieve. A lot of the anger we see right now is pent up grief. And there's something I hear at funerals that just makes me nuts. Well, they wouldn't want you to be sad. When I go, you better praise. You better have some tears, or I'm going to come haunt you, because I want to know I meant that much to you.
Well, of course.
And we are so afraid of feelings in America. And I hear it all the time. Oh, you have to rejoice in the Lord. Well, I could rejoice in the Lord and still grieve.
Right.
I could still shed a tear that my friend's under. I know my friend's in a better place, and I miss them.
Right. Exactly.
When Don died, I can't begin to express how many tears I felt. And then, not just then, even to this day, I sometimes think of him, just like I think of Chamberlain.
Right.
And the tears just come down because of the value that not only did they have in my life, but still do have in my life.
Right.
And I'm sure you do that as well.
Oh, I do it. I every day. I think of him every single day. But you were thinking, when Don was alive and we were driving one day, and he said, out of the blue, he said, I probably will die before you. And I go, la, 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 don't tell that. Don't tell me that. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. And he goes, well, I'm 15 years older. I hope if you die first, I'm going to be really aggravated. And I said, well, I don't think I would do it. And he goes, well, of course you could do it. You don't think you can do it now because it hasn't happened. But when it happens, you will have the grace of God. And, he literally put his finger up to me and said, grieve, but don't ever let your light shine out. be what God created. Continue your life. And you can have great grief, believe me. I
Yes.
had it. And still be able to continue your life and be what God had you wanted you to be.
I can hear Don saying that.
Yep. Yeah.
I really can.
Yeah.
Well, when they were taking me to the hospital, the look on Gabby's face is, if you die, I'm going to have them resuscitate you so I can kill you myself.
There you go.
There you go. You talked earlier about God gave us dominion over the animals, and God gave dominion over men with women.
Yeah. There you go.
Get married. You know what that means. So.
Right.
So.
Yeah, but it is true. We have lost the ability to be okay with ourselves, to be with ourselves,
Yes.
and to be vulnerable, and to be able to show other people that we hurt and that we're all here together. We have really lost that. And that's why I was thinking when I was coming over here, that I was thinking about all this, that we really have lost that. That's why people, when you talk about anger, that's why people are so angry. They have all these pent up things, that I'm afraid sometimes, because I see kindness going away sometimes. And I see, empathy going away. And, you got to see my way or no way. And it hurts my heart.
Yeah.
It really hurts my heart. But then I turn around and see my walk at Bonelli Park and become aware of the glory of life, and that there is so much beauty in life, and so many good people in life, and so many joyous hours that we are able to travel.
And we can become that kindness that we're looking to see an expression in society. And it's tough, because we see all this, and I'm certainly not blind to it, and there's times I've reacted to it instead of responded to it. And then I have to get back, and this is why it's so important, the we part of this, is because, we remind each other of these principles. Okay, but are you being kind today? Mm-hmm. And, it just, I'm really blessed to have some people who are really centered that remind me of these things. You and I've been around some people where, we help each other spiritually, and I'll tell somebody something when they're going through something, and 6 months later, I'll be going through the same thing, and they'll tell me what I told them. I say, I told you that 6 months ago. They say, yeah, but I know it right now, and you don't.
Yeah.
It's in that awareness of not having to know everything, but instead to experience everything.
Right.
And it's in the experience. In my mind, you cannot find God with your head.
No, absolutely
It
not.
has to be through the heart. Richard Ward says something I think is really powerful, and I like to get your thought on it, is that the only two things that break open the heart is tremendous pain or tremendous love.
Absolutely.
And those are the only things that open it up enough, we can let God in.
Absolutely.
And let God out at the same time.
Right. Well, and it's when we have that moment of surrender, because we're always trying to be strong. For me, I've had moments where I've had to lay down on the floor and go, I can't do it. I can't do this. I need your help. I need your help. And it's in that crying out that we get the strength. Like Don said, of course you don't think you can go through this because you haven't had it happen yet. But once you do, that's when you get the grace of God. And I think when we call out to that universe, that life energy beyond my understanding has helped me through so many things, through the care, through the faith, that, okay, I screamed out, now what's my next step? And I got to do an action,
Right.
I got to do an action. So
being
yeah.
strong enough to be weak.
There you go.
And that requires serious strength. Well, we're in our last couple minutes, about a minute and a half. And what are some final thoughts you'd like to leave our listeners with tonight?
Well, I really like to leave them with the fact that just try to sit and be there within, be with yourself. Even like you said, even for a minute, someone once told Don, if you don't have 6 minutes to sit quietly, your life is too darn busy. Of course, he didn't say it quite that nice. And it's true. Allow yourself the joy and the priceless gift of being with yourself just for a few moments, and practice it, and you'll see how your life will change.
Well, absolutely. Well, brothers and sisters, you listening to Viewpoint with Father John, and I really want to thank my guest, Jackie Babb, for so much she brought in with us tonight. It was a joy for me when she agreed to come in. I've been looking forward to this. I'm coming to a close a little bit early because I want to give a personal message to you, my listeners, and the people who've been praying for me, and tell you how grateful I am to you. A lot of you have reached out, and I want you to know it means a great deal. I know I haven't responded to all the different letters and stuff. There's been literally hundreds of them. And I'm grateful to you, and I'm getting stronger every day. Again, I thank Dr. John Smith and for filling in for me, and Frank doing a great job keeping the show going so that they didn't go on automation and this show now just be a musical program. Although Frank says that might be music to his ears. But yeah, I just want to say how much I'm grateful to you. And, I've been honest with you about my different health issues going on, and it's going to be a long walk. I'm still not as strong as I'd like to be, but I'm stronger than I was. And I'm stronger because of your love and your prayers. And Jackie, I love you.
I love you too.
You're wonderful.
So are you.
And, thank you for spending another week on Viewpoint with Father John. If no one told you this week that they love you, let me be the first. We'll be back next week. God bless.
KCAA Loma Linda. Listen on 1050 AM.